Hey everybody. Today, we're going to have a little chat with some of the great folks over at the PC Security channel, and I can pull those up. They have some very, very cool stuff. A lot of times testing different antivirus or EDR solutions against a lot of malware samples, and he's always rocking it on YouTube. So we've been doing these past couple of get-togethers, small, simple, kind of just remote over Discord conversations and chats, just to catch up, just to talk about either content, just to talk about either what we're up to, talk about the new year. So it's super casual, it's super simple and small. But I had the epiphany, I had the realization, why are we not bringing that to a larger space than just Discord? So I asked him, like, hey, are you totally cool with me going ahead and live streaming while we chat? And Leo, gentleman, said yes, of course. So I appreciate that. We're going to try it out. We're going to test it out. We're going to see how well this works.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Yeah. Happy New Year. Happy 2024.
Our first event of the year.
Does this count? Does this count as the first event?
Yeah, I guess so.
Sweet. Well, hey, thank you.
Event, so
I've been trying to get better about some more of the just involvement or community engagement and just kind of being out and about. So I'm experimenting with doing more and more like live streams. And we've been trying to the past couple of days, and I thought, because we do this, because you and I have these cool chats, get-togethers, it would be worthwhile to be like, oh, can we expand that a little bit further than just your Discord, if you're willing. So I'm grateful
Absolutely.
for...
I mean, in long term, I think we should definitely get together, do more of like a cybersecurity podcast kind of format.
Yeah.
You know, it's just people don't realize all of the effort that goes into making something like that. Once it's official, right, you have the editing overhead, you have the planning overhead, you need to pick the topics, and then it just becomes more like work. So we started off, taking it nice and easy, so we're both comfortable. And I guess once we get used to it, we can kind of make it a little bit more official as we go on.
For sure. And it'd be really, really cool just to keep bringing in some new folks. I see some people mentioning, hey, can we get David Bombal? Can we get Namsek? Can we get... more collaborations would just be phenomenal.
I actually just spoke with Colin. I think you know him as well because you follow him on Twitter.
Yeah.
So, and he was talking about things like the difference between being passionate about cybersecurity and doing it as a job. And that topic was really interesting to me. So I reached out to him and I said, would you like to speak? And he said he would love to. So maybe next event, we're going to have him on as well and we could discuss those issues.
That's awesome. All about
So I also wanted to ask you, like, I guess this is going to be a good question to kick us off is, do you do New Year's resolutions? Do you do any kind of like annual planning for the year? If so, what does that look like?
I struggle in a weird way with a lot of either the New Year's resolution stuff, because I kind of see both sides of the conversation where people say, oh, it's cheesy. You don't need to be setting a New Year's goal or New Year's resolution. You should have those goals all the time. You don't need to have that. It's silly to start a marker and say, I'm going to hold myself to this for this year. But I also see the perspective, and I agree. I do see the incentive, if just like any encouragement, any other motivation to try to get better or to try new things or to, progress and benefit yourself. So I still want to. Yeah, sure. I have no issue with it's a new year. Let's try to do a little bit more live streams. Let's try to do a little bit more collaboration. Let's try to enhance content quality and production. So all of it.
But you don't have specific plans. You don't make specific plans annually or because again, I don't personally believe in New Year resolutions either. I never really did those because I feel like, again, the idea of just doing like one thing or two things or having a wish list, right? Like, oh, I want to do all these things. I don't think that's very productive, but I think what is productive is kind of having what actual corporations do, in a sense, is like having a plan for the year and saying, these are the areas I want to focus on, and then having, some amount of like implementation, but usually the implementation part is going to change every month or every day, depending on what comes up. So it doesn't make sense to say, oh, I want to do this every day, but it kind of makes sense to have a rough idea of how you want to change in the next year, and then I think that's helpful, and then you can work out the implementation as you go.
Maybe that's the only differentiator for me is like I have these thoughts in my head, but I'm not going to like etch them into stone.
I do a lot of the thinking as well, right? That's what you do. You look at the fireworks and stuff. Kind of like a time for reflection, I guess. Whether or not you write it down, how officially you do it, it varies from person to person. I don't do it particularly sincerely, but I always find it's good to kind of reflect at some point, and the end of the year is usually like the most logical time for it.
Nothing wrong with that. Well, what else are you up to?
Speaking of,
oh yeah,
sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask you, like, hey, is there anything new in your world for stuff that, I don't know, might be at least on the horizon for 2024? Or I think you were starting to lead into something else. I'm happy to let you roll.
No. So I'll answer your question first. So there are a couple of big things that I'm working on. So obviously one of them is the Malix product, which is kind of like, a web product I'm building that anybody can use to test cybersecurity solutions. It's kind of like an endpoint testing toolkit. It's based on all the stuff that I'm doing in the back end to do the tests on TPSC. And eventually I was like, this is so much work. Like I constantly keep messing around with it. And then every time I switch to a new system, I have to now port all those tools over. So, and I keep getting asked like, Leo, can you share the script? Can you share the script? And what people don't realize is there's no like one script. It's a mishmash of a bunch of things. Again, I think a lot of people think that there's just one place where you can get this curated list of malware to test with. And that's typically not how your threat intel feeds work. So you'll have like a bunch of sites where maybe somebody's reporting malware links like URL house. Then you will have specific feeds and they will often have false positives. They will not flag things correctly. A lot of those, they'll be in different formats. Some may be DLL, some may be EXE, some may be JavaScript. And to collect all of that, process it, turn it into something you can actually test an AV with, there's a lot of work involved in that. And so what I wanted to do was take all of that process and then convert it into one product. So makes it easy for me. I can just log in and I can just get all the tools. I can get my malware. I can get my testing scripts and I can just run it on any system. And then it also allows me to kind of expand it out and give other people access to it. So I'm planning to turn it into some kind of product. The product side of it is still kind of, I'm still working on that. The site is mostly functional, so that's the good part. So the technical implementation, we've kind of sorted that out. So this year is going to be the launch for that. So I'm really excited for that. I'm really looking forward to letting people play around with it and hearing what they think of it. Obviously, you'll be one of the first to know. I'd love to get your feedback as soon as we're ready for a beta. And so I mean, hopefully once that's out, like that'll give me some extra time to focus on content. So like you said, the live streams, doing some kind of podcast, because I've always wanted to talk about more enterprise related topics, more serious security conversations, not just, oh, look, here's a new malware, the usual news cycle kind of thing. Something big happens and then I talk about it or showcase it, and then the usual AV tests. I want to kind of cover, because the cybersecurity industry has also changed a lot, and it's important to cover these other aspects, like the human aspects, and it's important to do it in an interesting way that doesn't upset the existing audience, obviously, and at the same time kind of bringing in the people in the actual cybersecurity industry more. So that's kind of my broad plan for next year. Another one is obviously to kind of grow the team a little bit. So you've obviously already taken that leap, and for me, it's been very, very much like touch and go. So I've had people involved in various aspects for short periods of time, or working on specific projects, or I'd hire developers from Upwork. Whereas now I think it's the right time to kind of bring in more serious pair of hands to help with specific aspects. So I can have more time to really do the long-term stuff. Because what happens now is it's just like the day-to-day cycle takes up all of my time. I don't know if you feel that way. Do you really have time to plan out for the future? Or, you just get, oh, I'm just looking to get everything that's on my list done?
I think there will be a crazy transition point probably next week once the content starts back up again for me, because I've been enjoying a little bit of a lull and I've been playing with the live streaming during that period. But now it's like, oh, if I want to incorporate that into my life and the time and workflow, well, that's just going to eat more time. But it also gives more of an opportunity to have continued content, or just replicate it or put it into different formats. So in the notion of growing the team, I'm grateful. Yeah, we got an editor and we have a couple of other editors on the bench, and I'm curious if they're willing to start to cut through some of the live stream VODs or churn those out into a little bit more, is probably how I would dance with your thought of, yeah, can I grow the team? I'm interested in the developer aspect. Are you doing that just like more Upwork specifically, or you said you did want to bring folks on full time sort of thing?
Yeah, so far it's been kind of project based. So I have a friend, thankfully, who's in who has a lot of experience in software development, and he's been helping me out. But obviously he has a full-time job, so he's been kind of like the advisory stuff, the architect stuff, right, telling us what kind of stack we should use, and because I know him very well, we can communicate effectively. So he can tell me, oh, if this is what you're looking for, this is the software stack you should go for. And so that's kind of like the communication side of things. And then to actually implement that stuff and do the day-to-day, the boring code, the copy pasting the libraries and stuff like that. So that's the part that I got Upwork developers to do. But again, that's not very reliable often because, again, you don't have somebody full time. So there's no accountability. And also when you're running a live site, there's also maintenance, right? It's one thing to just, you imagine that you will just build the thing and it's going to work, but that's never how it goes, right? Yeah. Something's going to break, something's going to, fall apart. You will need to tweak things on the fly. And that's when it makes sense to have somebody who is like permanently in charge of the project, because I'm not a full stack developer. I've done no front end development. The only development work I really do is in Python. So a lot of this stuff is like completely like a black box to me. So especially when it comes to UI, it would take me hours to figure out even how the UI for the current site works. So ideally, yeah, I want to get somebody in charge of that full time. Now you spoke about video editing and stuff. Now that's still, I get a lot of offers for that, but I'm always kind of hesitant. So I'm kind of curious. So when you talk about video editors, have you got somebody who is like full-time dedicated, or is it more like individuals who are kind of freelancing and you just give them projects and give them a specific rate for it? What's the format of your interaction for your video editors?
More of the latter, not full-time, or in the United States, like salaried full-time employee W-2 form by any means. Still kind of some contract work, but he's an angel, honestly. He's just super duper present and super attentive and always kind of being willing to help out. So I'm extremely, extremely grateful for Nordgaren's help. But I try to tell them that all the time. I try to be like, hey, here's your Christmas present. Please, I value you so much.
That's great.
But we have some
and
others.
They like, do you do some videos by yourself, some videos you give it over to them, or is it like, they just take care of everything?
This is a balancing act, because with the frequency and cadence, especially with like last year, at like the pace that we were uploading, it's like I feel so bad if like we need to have a video out Monday, Wednesday, maybe Friday, and then, hey, hang on, we're gonna have to squeeze something on the Tuesday or Thursday that next week. So that's just because of obligations. Like, hey, we try to run and we try to keep some sponsors happy so that we can keep building this thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't know. Now that I have folks tuning in and listening in, I know it's easy to kind of get up in arms about sponsorship, but no, you need to have a financially healthy thing. So I'm grateful for him when he can take that, especially, but if it's like one after the other, day to day to day, I don't want to burn him out, and I don't want to like just work him to death by any means. So if that ever happens, I'm like, hey, let me take this one and I'll try to do it, and I'll try to do the editing myself, just because I don't want, it's the balancing act of like, I don't want to work you so hard that either you hate me, because that doesn't help. And I don't know, I still want to make sure that we're,
although if it's like, if you're paying them per project, they just get paid more. So, yeah. But I guess, yeah, you're right. Like they still probably have some kind of, as a person, you still have that. And it's also, I guess, like about productivity. So if you just cram too much stuff, then the quality is going to go down, right? I guess that's another concern.
True. Very true. That is something that I've also been thinking about, because it's like a matter of, I think we've talked about it before, of like the quality versus quantity. I don't know if there's ever a tipping point where the quantity is really important, because it's just, hey, you want to kind of stay in the front. You kind of want to be on the screen as much as you can be, and there's nothing wrong with continuing to get things out, but it's still worthwhile and should be good material to begin with. Yeah, the quality.
Yeah, that's I think, again, like a very very different approach to how I think you can succeed with both approaches. I've seen YouTube channels that are kind of like yours, where you have vast library of videos, you're constantly producing content, and that creates that engagement. I've also seen channels that are the opposite, like CGP Grey, where he uploads like 3 times a year, and he still has a huge following with millions of subscribers and gets, millions of views. I think he's almost at 1 billion views now. But you can kind of see both sides, and I can see why they work. I think previously YouTube was more in line with that kind of approach where it graded you for the video, which is why people didn't like making videos that got fewer views, because they would think that then the algorithm would deprioritize their channel. But I don't think that happens now. That's actually the next thing I was going to discuss, because I recently made kind of like a travel vlog for my trips to RSA.
I saw that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool. How'd you see that, by the way? Was it, did it just pop up on your feed?
Truth be told, I got the Discord announcement when you were all doing the Hey Happy New Year's.
Yep.
So I saw the link there. I got to admit, I didn't watch the entire thing. I just kind of saw that it happened. But the immediate, like, how you just open a link and you just scroll down and see what's going on and then you just fly away. I saw a comment where people were already immediately like, what is this music? And how you can't please anyone by any means. Like, this is the weird, you couldn't have chose a different song. So it was stupid, but I don't know. Showcasing all the travel is still incredible.
Funny enough, so YouTube these days on YouTube, it's always like first it's the cynical people who comment. They're the fastest to comment, right? The negative comments, they come first, and then all the good comments pop in 6 hours later or 8 hours later. Very interestingly, like the top comment on that video is actually like, oh wait, you're a cybersecurity expert and you go out and have fun and have a life. Like, where can I learn this power?
Right?
Right? Something like that. And that's why I felt it's kind of important to bring this kind of content even to the main channel, because a lot of people, they assume certain things go together, right? So they just assume that if you're interested in cybersecurity, you must be a geek and you probably just spent all your time on the computer. And that's not who I am. And I think it's important to kind of have that personality element to YouTube. That's what makes it different from just being like some kind of corporate video. So I think it's important to have that. But again, one of the arguments against it is obviously that video is not going to do very well. It's got, I think, about like 5,000 views or so. And I expect like over the course of next week or whatever, it's going to get maybe like 10,000, 15,000 views, which is going to be a very poorly performing video by TPSC standards. But at the same time, when I was on the US trip, I met people who knew particular things I did in videos. And they're like, oh, by the way, that one video you made was really helpful to me. And I was just thinking, yeah, I mean, that was not a very popular video. So I probably might not have made it based on the way I'm thinking now in terms of, is this going to be a very popular video? The same way, I mean, that video could inspire a lot of people. And you're not going to get that if you're just focused on, I just want to make the video that's going to be as popular. Whereas videos like this might have some impact on, a lot more impact on some people, and maybe not as much like Broad's impact. So it's a trade-off. But I guess the bigger question is, how does it affect the actual YouTube channel? And my guess is these days it doesn't. So if I were to make the next video, and let's say it's Kaspersky versus Bitdefender, spoiler alert, it actually is, probably. I still haven't finished it. But if you do make a more popular topic after that, is YouTube gonna say, well, the last video wasn't so popular, so maybe let's not promote this one as much? I don't think it does that anymore. Like, do you have any experience with that? Have you ever seen, if you upload a video that wasn't very popular, the next one, or for the next 2-3 videos, YouTube deprioritizes the channel or something? Or do you think it's just every video is unique, and depending on how each video performs, it gets promoted or not?
I think, and this is just total speculation, I don't know enough of inner workings of YouTube to tell, but I think each video has kind of its own shot. I don't think, the performance of the past one would affect whether or not this one will do as well or less well or whatever. Maybe to a certain extent of just like, hey, how frequently people look back at your channel, and because, maybe that past one didn't do so hot, so they're not going to go check it again to go see what new thing you're up to. But I think for the algorithm, again, big air quotes on that, it's a matter of still, it's going to give it its time in the sun and show it to people, and then show it to a wider people, and et cetera, et cetera. So I think every video is kind of standalone, but I guess I don't know for sure.
Yeah, of course. Like, nobody knows for sure. Yeah. But I was just curious, like, have you seen anything like that in your experience, like based on your uploads on channel? Or do you, based on, so let's say you make a video that's really successful. do you think it has anything to do with the period in which you uploaded it, or do you think that's just based on the pure merits of the video that you uploaded?
It might be a little bit nuanced. I think normally on the pure merits of the video, because you can get a 10 out of 10 video, which is the worst. Like if for folks that maybe aren't as familiar, 10 out of 10, I know it sounds weird because that sounds like it should be a good thing, but it is like ranked out of your past videos. So that means it's the lowest well-performing video. And then the next day, if you release something else, you can put out a 1 out of 10 video and it just pops off. It's as well. It's as great. I do think those can still be because the video itself is the driving force. But to your question of what about like the timing, what about the circumstance, if you can bring something that's just hot and topical, like, oh, Log4j vulnerability, when it's breaking and emerging news, I think that can certainly help if you're riding on a trend or some current event. But for like a static standalone thing, like I think you mentioned Kaspersky versus Bitdefender, like that will, I think, still do just fine, if not perfectly and great, because of all of the consumers of those products.
Yeah, I mean, I'm betting on that. That's why I released this video, because I thought, yeah, nowadays it probably doesn't matter at all. So, I mean, it doesn't matter that this video doesn't get that many views because the next one's just going to be totally different. So the people who want to watch this can watch this. The people who don't want to watch it don't have to watch it. They can just watch the cybersecurity stuff. So yeah, hopefully you're right.
Well, I love it. I really appreciate it, and I really like that you did it because, again, like sentimental with the comments is like it shows like you're a person and you go do things and you're not always just robotic on the keyboard, chained to your desk. But I'm curious, like, because it's cutesy when folks do, a day in the life or a vlog. Would you ever consider something silly like that? I've had some people suggest to me, like, why don't you just show a little bit more of like outside of the studio? Like you're mobile and you're moving and you're, I don't know, going on a walk. You're showing the rest of you. I don't know if that has any attractive or not, or people just like, no, I want strict cybersecurity, antivirus.
I personally feel like I should do more of that because, again, like, I think this goes back to the topic that Colin was talking about, which is I got into cybersecurity at a specific time with specific interest, and then it's very easy to get trapped into that and then just forget every other aspect that you know of your life. And I don't think YouTube works like that. I think, again, your job kind of works like that because if you work, that's your job. You know, you might have other hobbies outside your job, but cybersecurity is your job now. Whereas with YouTube, I feel like it's more personality driven. So I think the YouTube channels that do really well are the channels that the channel grows with the person rather than the channels where it's like, oh, the channel just tries to keep replicating the same kind of formula of content that made it successful in the first place. Because again, that content may have been great 10 years ago, but now it may not be, you may not be as enthusiastic about it. There may not be as much to cover there. A great example, I think, and maybe we can get Danok to talk about this. I don't want to throw him under the bus or anything. I love his channel. But Danok1 is a great example of that. So he's like a computer historian, and all his videos are about old malware, like really old malware. And I'm sure he's really interested in that stuff, but there's only a certain extent to which that interest carries over throughout your life. So maybe like one of these days he looks at this old DOS virus, but the frequency of the videos keeps getting lower and lower because he has other stuff he's doing, obviously. And he's not covering that on the channel. So every once in a while, maybe a few months, he comes back and makes a video about some other old malware. But then the channel kind of suffers because it doesn't have that kind of growth path. Whereas I think if the channel evolves, obviously, I'm not going to start uploading gaming videos or anything like that. But I think it makes sense to kind of, have some personality in the channel. So as you're doing new things, you're exploring new ideas, some of that should translate over into the channel, to make the content evolve and make it more interesting. So I think it makes sense, like not necessarily in the way that you shouldn't necessarily just do the formula video in the same way everybody else does it. It might work, but you could also do like your own twist on it, right? In terms of, let's say, like how you like to, I would love to see, for example, like one of the videos about how you do the DEF CON challenges, right? Like, and maybe instead of making that just like the screen capture, you could show your actual journey to DEF CON and then, oh, I participated in this. This is what we did. These are the guys in the team. And that would show a very different, kind of perspective of the same challenge. Maybe you already cover that stuff, but this would be very different, especially for someone like me. It'd be way more interesting than just watching, oh, I hacked this thing, right? Because then it's just a technical video. And if you're not interested in that particular technical topic, it's boring. Whereas if you make it a little bit more like broad in that sense, then it's interesting to everybody.
Yeah, I think getting some more of the real world, even in just the footage and just the shots and talking about, I would love to do that. I wish I should do a better job of that, especially with a lot of the travel. Because like when I went either to like ZeefCon in Poland or when I went to RootedCon over in Madrid,
Right.
like sure I could do a cheesy dumb travel vlog and you get the like obligatory shot of the plane rising out the window look, but like no, still just showing the people there and getting to see the talk and then talking, like playing the CTF and hey, an intro to, who's doing what. That's a great idea. I should do better about that. I hope that one of my cameras that I've tried to set up a good many of them now, I can kind of keep mobile for just those anytime we go do something
Just
new.
use your phone, honestly. Like if you have
Yeah.
a good phone, the camera is probably going to be good enough for the kind of content you want, right? Like nobody's going to notice.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what I did. Honestly, it's actually much worse. Like, so if you get like an average DSLR and you try to shoot with that, because that will require a lot of post-processing in order to look good. Whereas on the phone, you've already got the post-processing being done on the fly. So you can just take the video out, add some filters, and it looks acceptable, which is, I think, a lot better if you're not doing that kind of content regularly. But yeah, I guess I can also pivot to that topic. So what are the conferences you're planning to go this year? So 2024, what are your plans? Do you already have them lined up? Are you speaking somewhere? Do you maintain a list for these things? Because I was discussing this with Brian yesterday. Kind of curious what you do.
I should make a list for them. I don't know. It's like all on the calendar maybe at some point, but there are a couple things that have either already kind of come through and now I need to get smart and make sure that it's actually happening. Flights are booked and hotel and logistics are all put together. I was chatting that I have Code Mash next week. That's more of like a developer focused, like secure coding kind of conference. But I'm doing a workshop there on some like binary analysis or reverse engineering with another really smart friend of mine, Jason.
Right.
And then
you don't do any AppSec stuff though, do you?
Not real. It's funny because like AppSec and that air quotes umbrella term for literally whatever is hard to capture and define and encapsulate. Like, sure, I look at application security if I try to get and go beat up some small website that has some features to it for like either vulnerabilities or for CTF or for whatever, but I don't naturally do that all the time. So I don't by any means have the.
But you don't do like a lot of coding or code reviews or anything like that.
Yeah,
you know,
not
looking
usually.
into what implementation secure or not. Yeah, I hate that stuff as well.
Come March, I will be jumping down to Texas for their Connections conference, Connections.ai with I think the University of Texas. So I don't know if that's a leak. If anyone listening is over at University of Texas, but I'll join you. And hopefully have some fun there. I hope to do HackSpaceCon come April. I'm like scrolling through my calendar right now. DEF CON Vegas, Black Hat and RSA. Well, RSA different time frame, but I have booked the hotel for DEF CON already, which feels wild and crazy because I've never done that so far ahead of time. But
yeah, that's like really far ahead. Did you get a really good price?
Yes. And I will absolutely 1,000% go to ZeefCon again, which is way over in Poland, because now that I've unlocked that experience, I feel like I can't not.
So good, huh?
Yeah. Well, they have this.
I might check it out this year if you say it's so good.
So maybe this is too boondoggle-ish, but their after party, they have the like tall ship of Gdynia or Gdynia. I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, but over in that location in Poland, they have a like infamous historic ship and vessel. So they have their after party out on a cruise on the hacker pirate ship, and there's just beer and booze every corner, and it's insane and hilarious, and it might have been one of the funnest days of my life, or most fun days of my life. So I need to do that again.
Yeah, sounds like we shouldn't miss that. I'll definitely look into that conference. It's ZeefCon, right?
Yeah, X33F Con. I think they just started.
Yeah, I was thinking, how do you spell that? Brian, you might want to make a note of this, so we can look into it.
Yeah, not a problem. I'm actually a step ahead here. I'm taking questions for the QA session. I'm already got a list here of all of the conferences you're talking about. So
Yeah, I mean, either
here
way,
for that.
I'm definitely going to meet you, John, at in Vegas, because we're
totally.
also doing the DEF CON trip. I'm not sure about RSA. I may or may not do it, but I'm definitely doing the DEF CON Las Vegas thing, because it's just so much value, right? Because you've got DEF CON, you've got WooCon, you've got Black Hat, you've got B-Sides. It's like 4 conferences plus in a very short period, and I'm sure there's more stuff going on as well that we didn't get to. So it's just a very easy thing to justify attending. The other ones I'm still kind of like iffy on which ones, because there's only I'd love to go to all of them, but I can only go to, I think I'm planning on going like 2 of them abroad, and then obviously I do all the ones here in the UK because they're like very close to my house.
Were those B-sides that you were just chatting about, or I'm sorry, I got distracted?
Oh, no. So the ones in the UK are like Virus Bulletin, Black Hat. Those are the ones I can easily attend. Info Security Europe. The one I'm planning on going for sure is the one in Vegas. So I'll be there for that week of Vegas as well.
Cool. I'm just
curious.
Vegas.
What do you do at B-Sides, since you're talking about that?
So B-Sides, and for context, if folks listening in aren't too familiar, but it's sort of the smaller, more local, tight-knit, and close communities in just any other region or area that's just a kind of a get-together and great meetup for just InfoSec professionals and security practitioners and stuff that happens. But they are wonderful and lovely because they are so kind of close-knit and small. You have varying ranges of quality, quote-unquote, I guess, depending on however you measure that. But I really, really like to go to B-Sides to play their Capture the Flag and hang out and, I don't know, just be with folks. If there are, and I hope to try to get to the ones where just good friends are speaking at, or there's people I can go support and kind of just see what incredible things they're up to. That's just a lot of fun to just go to their talk and go enjoy the time with them. When I was at B-Side San Francisco, and I hope to again this year, Ben Sadegapur or Namsek was there.
That was a good venue, wasn't it? B-Side San Francisco.
Yeah, were you there? Did you go?
Rooftop, good view.
Yeah.
The Las Vegas one was a bit dull.
Besides Las Vegas, I went in 2019. I played their Pros versus Joes competition, and I think they're still kicking. They're still doing incredible things. I do love those guys, and I wish I had spent a little bit more time with them, but life gets in the way. Pros versus Joes competition is there, and yeah, the space for B-Sides Las Vegas was hard. I don't know if they changed. Were they still at the Tuscany? Do you remember?
I think so. Yeah, they were at Tuscany.
That I know.
Brian
the hallway.
Bumblebee can correct me if I messed that up, but I think we were at Tuscany.
I believe you were at the Tuscany. We stayed on the.
No. Where was B-Sides?
B-Sides was the hotel on Flamingo.
Was it Flamingo or was it the Tuscany Suites? I think it was the Tuscany Suites.
It was on Flamingo, the street, but I'm not sure if it was.
Okay, they're more confused than I am. I think you're right, John. I think it was Tuscany.
I think it was the Tuscany though.
Because I remember that was the very first day, and I think we met one of your friends, Brian, in the morning, and then we just went into the conference, and I think we were a little bit late because of that. But yeah, it wasn't it wasn't that huge anyway. But so you're mostly interested in CTFs, right? Like I don't see you attending like all the talks of B-Sides.
Yeah, I just like to play. I will make a list of the talks that I'm interested in, and I can only go either by the title or the presenter or in the abstract, right? You never know.
Right.
I would not be able to do just sitting in the audience and not moving for the entire day. I would not be able to like talk marathon anything on the, or everything on the schedule. But I will cherry pick the stuff that sounds really interesting, go see it, and then I'll be super honest, totally transparent. If I'm just bored, I'll get up and leave. I'll go back to some other corner of the conference and then get back on my keyboard, or just go spend time with friends. But really, it's just now become the social experience. Like when I got to run into you over at Black Hat, when we spent some time together during DEF CON and all, it's just, hey, I just want to see
DEF CON. I was watching you and your team hacking.
Oh yeah, I'm so sorry. I felt so bad because I was in the zone.
You type really fast.
I type like an idiot. I use only my middle finger.
Oh, you're typing and then it's like, oh crap, this doesn't work. But then you're correcting on the fly. So it's good to see because when you're programming, you always imagine that there's some perfect programmer who just like types the right code and it compiles immediately and works. Right. Whereas that's not how people program, I guess.
Maybe those exist, but I don't know any of them personally.
Yeah, maybe we'll find one day. But yeah, when I saw you program, you were doing it the same way I would do it, but you were just faster than me in terms of the typing. Because I'm usually more like I just sit and think and then I type. Whereas you're just like Zoom, like you're just on the keyboard all the time. Like you should play Type Racer.
The thing is, like, once I fall, like once I mistype and I hit the wrong key, then I'll be just destroyed. But I should try some Type Racer. We could do some Type Racer games in the chat, or
Type Racer contest. I don't think I want to take you on in that one. You're probably gonna crush me, honestly.
And I'm sorry.
Maybe someday, right? Like maybe we can have like one day, Counter-Strike and then Type Racer, so we both destroy each other, right? Like then it's only fair.
Yeah, the next cross-site scripting vulnerability in Counter-Strike, we'll have to jump in together. I wanted to apologize if at DEF CON, because I know you were like looking over the shoulder, and I felt so bad because I'm like, I was in the zone, and I don't want to like ignore you.
No.
I don't want to disregard
I wanted
you,
to
but
see that. I wanted to see how you actually, work and when nobody's looking. So I mean, it was fun. Like I didn't mind that at all.
my brain splits in half.
I need to actually.
No, that was fun.
It's a good thing you bring that up, Hammond. I need to know because I know you were super busy. Are you interested in attending that conference that I invited you to next year, or is that still going to be up in the air? I have to know ahead of time so I can submit names.
I am not good at knowing things ahead of time in my life, and I'm super duper sorry. So you could probably play it safe and count me for a no.
Okay, no problem. Just wanted to make sure.
I'm the worst. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, there's another like invite only type thing, which is like LabsCon in Phoenix, Arizona. Have you ever gone to that one?
I have not been to LabsCon, but everything I hear about it is that it's incredible. I would feel like not worthy amongst all of those fantastic people. I was reading about the 100 Days of Yara challenge on stream last night, and Greg Lesniewicz, I'm sorry, I'm going to get Greg's last name wrong, but I know he's one of the geniuses that was helping pioneer a lot of those efforts. And LabsCon always just has phenomenal research and really high quality stuff. I have never attended, but I think that would be really, really worthwhile. Same with like Cyber WarCon. There are, I think, a lot of really, really cool top tier, good like threat intelligence, malware defense research conferences. So yeah.
Yeah, maybe we'll do it this year. The timing is a bit weird because I think it should be easier for you because you can just stay there or somewhere close by. You can just drive over again for me, it's like I can't fly back and forth that quickly. So you come back and then 1 month later there's another conference, so you go back to the same place. That's kind of annoying.
Would you ever move to the United
just live
States?
there for the month.
Yeah, I would
That would be a
ask.
fun experience.
Would you ever consider up and rooting and coming over here? Or I don't know. Can I ask, what is life like for you over
I don't mind. I'm very flexible. I look, I mean, I really enjoyed my time in the US. I get bored of the landscape in the UK because it's all very flat and very boring. And once you get used to a city of London and all the landmarks, there's not a lot to do around here. Whereas in the US, every place kind of feels new. There's just like something or the other around the corner. Even near Las Vegas, there are probably like 20 different places you could visit. So I wouldn't be bored if I was in the US. So I wouldn't mind spending some time there. I might do it actually. I might do, depending on the circumstances, I might decide to just stay over from DEF CON and then wait all the way until LabsCon and then come back after that. So I'll have like a full month or a month and a half in the US.
Cool. That would be an adventure. That would be a fun trip.
Yeah, we'll see. I still have to work out. It's still way too early to plan that stuff. But yeah, since you've already booked the hotel, like, what's your favorite hotel in Las Vegas?
We did the Paris Hotel in 2019. We did Harrah's at some point. We did the Link maybe last year. No, there was some MGM Park Grand, one of them. And now I think we're at another like big Grand Marriott.
Have you been to the Wynn?
I've been there. I've not stayed there. But that one's gorgeous, isn't it? Is the Wynn?
Yeah, I was there at the Wynn last time, and I would suggest like staying there sometime because especially if you get like the golf course view, the view is really nice. So obviously depends on which rooms you get, but yeah, if you get the right room, the view is like really good from there. But yeah, I would probably check out some other hotel this time. So last time I actually stayed like half of the time at the Wynn, and then I switched over to the Trump International, which was very close by, and yeah, like part of the funny thing about that was I was expecting like, part part of me was interested in the novelty of like, what is this Trump International? Also, the rates were better. Win kind of was weird for 2 days. It was way too expensive at the end. But funnily enough, like Trump International, one of the few hotels that I think it was the only hotel that didn't have a casino. I don't know if they took away his license or something, but I was just thinking, like, Trump is the guy I would expect to have a casino and all sorts of like, BS in the hotel. But it was very like minimalistic, which was kind of weird.
Yeah, I did that hop swap with the Luxor last year just as well. One that I'd like to try to stay at some
Luxor's
point.
the one with the pyramid, right? Like that's the
Yes.
Egyptian theme.
Yeah, that's the big pyramid. My room was directly behind. Like, I look out the window and all I can see is the back of the giant Egyptian cat. I'm like, this sucks. I just a slab wall.
So you're
a cat
staring at
butt.
its ass the whole
Exactly.
time.
But I'd like to stay at the Cosmo at some point. I think that one is very, very fancy. We'll need to make like a DEF CON tier list hotel room.
Yeah, we might actually do some trip because I mean I love nature trips. And you love nature trips as well. So maybe this time we'll find a day and we'll just go out. We did that with, I think, Phil Ben, some other guys. We went to Hoover Dam, but there's definitely a lot of places in Vegas. And I think we're both not huge fans of city itself. So
yeah, the city wears me down after enough time. But I'd love to.
Yeah.
Little walk, little hike, anything.
Yeah, looking forward to that trip. I mean, it should be fun. I might do the ZeefCon one, now that I think about it, because it's much closer to me. So if you're considering it important enough to fly all the way from there, then I should definitely do it, because it's only like a couple of hours and $20 of flight. It's just very different from how much it costs to go to the US.
I just had so much fun because there are, again, and I'm singing their praises, rightfully so, but like the genius wizards and like malware development and red teaming. John Mays was there. Dominic Schell, I might get his name wrong. A lot of the guys from MDSec Labs. Outflank had a huge presence there. One of the big like only malware Discord server owners, Cass Van Kooten, who put together an implant and a lot of other Nito Bonito stuff. He was hosting a workshop on some of that more malware development and red teaming. So it's just absolute wizards that it was just so cool to hang out with them and to spend time with them and to try to absorb, the best that you can. And they're just incredible people. They're just great friends. So can I ask?
I think like we should probably take some questions now.
Oh, good call. Yeah.
So Brian, Bumblebee, if you guys see any questions in Discord, you can obviously ask them, or you can just point us to them. And John, also, I think you're streaming, so if you see any big questions that we haven't dealt with, you should probably answer them now.
So I do actually have a big one for you, Leo, because we never actually started with it. So I had several people in his stream asking about who you are. So why don't we go ahead and start off with your credentials? How did you get into cybersecurity, and how did you become who you are today?
Who am I, right? Like, that's the command you type in. Yeah, you're not allowed to hack me, so no. Yeah, we should have done like an introduction at the beginning, but obviously, so my background is in threat research. I run the PC security channel, where we mostly test different cybersecurity solutions, but we also cover a lot of the same things that John does. So, for example, new emerging threats. We talk about the cybersecurity landscape. We talk about Windows spying. And most of the channel, I think, is focused on content that's really like hands-on. So I will just take a very common topic like, what spying does Windows do? And then we'll dive in, we'll look in Wireshark, and we'll see what kind of telemetry Microsoft is doing in the background. Then we'll try to block it. So that was one of our, popular video topics. We also did, tutorials on reverse engineering. We also do a lot of testing. So we have our own like threat intel framework, and we test different security solutions. So if you're kind of curious how good Windows Defender is, or what happens when you bombard a system with thousands of malware samples and ransomware, and that's check out the PC security channel. So that's kind of what I do nowadays. I started off doing like, blue teaming, mostly working with an AV company, MCSoft, and I was mostly in charge of labs team, adding, detections, and also, managing some of the lab projects and stuff like that. So mostly like, AV, blue team related stuff, looking into malware samples, trying to figure out, different ways of like analyzing and blocking them, building that pipeline. And then I guess I carried that over into my channel and tried to use those skills to build like a great testing framework. And then I started working with, I think, external corporates and then I was kind of surprised. It's like, oh wow, there are these huge companies. They have these issues with cybersecurity that, yeah, I could run a test and they, get their systems infected. So after that, I kind of like just decided to go off and build my own business. So that's what I do now.
And you're a rock star because you're crushing it with business. And I'm so excited about MalX.
I'm still not like the cool hacker guy like you are in DEF CON, right?
I'm not.
That's something I'd love to pick up from you. But yeah, like I kind of like, I guess I'm just more fun, right? Like I like more fun stuff where you can see things happen, like malware. And also I guess I'm more interested in the higher level like organization of stuff, like how organizations should configure things. I'm not as much of a deep expert as you, like in terms of knowing every single PowerShell script or something like that. I don't enjoy doing coding. I do keep up with it. I do have some skill in that because it's necessary, but the parts I enjoy more are like, I would say, more business focused and more higher level rather than in-depth expertise. I knew somebody on our team. So our CTO was very good. He was like really good at reversing ransomware. And I feel like you are still very, like you have a broad overview of knowledge on every topic, but you also have a lot of depth in certain topics. Whereas I'm a bit more broad than you, maybe not as deep in some topics.
I don't know. We all have strengths and weaknesses. I think the coolest part is just when we can kind of get together and then, hey, someone who has a better specialty in one thing can be the one that we call upon. And then maybe if someone that are a little bit of a broader knowledge, they can at least be the person that says like, oh, look, this is what we need to do. I don't know how or why or what, all the things to do it, but we can now run in that direction to go do that. So it all walks of life, all the experiences and all of the skill set just really plays in harmony when you're together. So that's kind of why we make sure I really try to harp on the whole standing on the shoulders of giants phrase. I know it sounds kind of trite and cliche, but it's just the right answer, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even now, like if you're getting into cybersecurity, there's so many tools, so many things that people have already built that you can basically take advantage of. And you don't need to build those skills because people have already built the tools. I know people who are doing like malware analysis on a Mac using a dashboard. That was just not possible before. So, you can gain a lot from combining the skills of different people in that way.
So with that question wrapped up,
we were answering a question. I forgot.
Yeah, we got like really into
got deep.
No problem. It's deep. That's why we have these discussions. But no, this comment actually, or this question is going to be more angled towards, I think, Leo specifically, just because of his discussion and what he followed up with. But this comes from Mr. and Mrs. Luis Carandi, and they are talking about how, let me see here, scrolling through chat. They were talking about how they are a SOC analyst at a big firm. They are they're adept or they're great at coding, and they already have the SOC analysis. Where should they go career or profession wise from there? Where would you guys recommend for somebody who already has SOC analysis and programming experience in the field?
I think it depends on your interests. I think that's the best answer to that. I mean, I can suggest, so if I were you, like I don't enjoy particularly like doing the in-depth stuff. So I would probably go into more like a project manager position. I would like to be kind of like a security architect where you're responsible for an entire stack because you already have the coding knowledge. You can look at the existing code, you can, create a pipeline, and then you can kind of build bigger projects instead of just building your part of the project. So one of the things I did, for example, at RedScan was I was in charge of building like the plans, for vulnerability management. Like, so how are you going to gather the threat intel? How are you going to scan the systems? And then putting together those pipelines for me is a lot more fun than sitting down and actually doing the implementation for individual things. But you still need some knowledge because otherwise the engineers, when they write the code, you need to be able to look into that and make sure that, things are working as intended. So I think if you have that kind of broad knowledge and you have, the understanding of threat intel, then again, any kind of role that allows you to actually go up and build like your own threat intel pipeline or manage a project of a threat intel pipeline, that would be fun. But again, it depends on you. So if you're more the person who just wants to be a subject matter expert, then it's going to be a very different career path. You could be a very good threat researcher and not have anything to do with how the business uses different cybersecurity tools. So I think I would say base it more on your interests and not based on what somebody on the internet says.
I feel bad. I would just literally echo that because that would kind of, those questions are always tough because it's like it's generally what you like. It's what you're interested in. It's what do you want to do? And like you can be honest with yourself. You can be like, look, no, I just kind of want to get the bag. I want to make a boatload of money. I want to get promotions. I want to keep rocking it. Like there's nothing wrong with that. And if you're looking to maybe move some directions on that front, do you want to stick with SOC? Do you want to stick with incident response? Do you want to stick with that more blue team defense aspect? Would you ever consider a CISO role? And do you want to be a manager? Do you want to just stay on the keyboard, maybe remain kind of analyst, or just the perspective like, look, I just want to be an operator, I just want to be a worker bee? And again, totally your decision, completely subjective.
Yeah, there's no wrong answer. You can go up levels in every single one of those directions. So even as SOC analyst, you can be a brilliant SOC analyst, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I have no idea if this is valuable or not, but I will just sort of share my piece, and by no means don't base yourself off of, again, what some stupid idiot on the internet says. But I know that I don't want to be a manager, and I know that I don't want to be a CISO. I know that I don't want to have a CISP or any of that. I just prefer to goof around on the keyboard and be that individual contributor, more of an operator, more of an analyst, and that's just me. That's just what I would like. But that, if you're thinking about that career progression, truthfully, yeah, the biggest things is just like find something for you that is what you're willing to do literally every single day. If that's some SOC analyst work, or you're thinking, you know what, all that elite hacks, pen testy, ethical hacking stuff looks kind of sexy and you want to try that, go dabble, but make sure it's fun and make sure it's something that you can play with. I think that's the best way and the biggest way to keep yourself safe and shielded from when the burnout hits and when the imposter syndrome hits, and it will. So.
I like how you said when instead of if.
Sorry, I don't know. Maybe I got too dark at the end there.
No, that's perfectly fine.
See, that's what happens when you do this for like years and years. You start to become jaded. No, I think again, like, you know, if you hit the perfect like range of development, like if you're growing at a particular pace, like those things may not hit you as much. I think those things happen when you just get stuck, right, in a kind of loop where you're like, oh, I'm just making videos, or oh, I'm just doing SOC analysis, and maybe your mind wants to go somewhere else, but you're constrained, and that's when you start feeling burnt out. But again, that's just stupid idea I have. Like everybody feels things differently. Maybe we can have that discussion with Colin at a later event. So yeah, that would be a whole discussion by itself. But yeah, I think we're out of time. So unless there's any last quick questions you have, Brian.
I do have two questions.
All right, very quickly.
Sorry. Yeah. So this one was from Dream FPS. They're talking about bachelor's degrees. They're asking specifically, as a hiring manager, what kind of information are you looking for undergrads, and what advice can you give for them to break into the industry? Specifically, they're looking for any electives you guys might recommend that they can take while they're trying to accomplish their 4-year degree.
Yeah, I mean, I did my degree in CS and AI, and I think, you know, that kind of helps, like, you know, having those skills these days, because a lot of it is about collecting data and, you know, classifying data. So even if you're not working in AI specifically, like just knowing, you know, information retrieval techniques, different kinds of, you know, databases, how you manage data, you know, Redis, how to work with large sets of data visualization skills, you know, all of those things really handy in variety of disciplines, even if you don't work in cyber. So I think that's a useful classification to have in your computer science degree these days. But in general, I would say it's more important to just do projects and, you know, have real world skills. Because again, for hiring, that's what people are going to need. They're going to need somebody who can like jump into job and do it, not necessarily somebody who has really fancy resume. People really overestimate, you know, and this is where I think, you know, people understand college differently. So the way I look at university is it's there to give you an education, not to teach you skills. So focus on the experience at university, learn how to do projects, how to become the person that you want to become, rather than think that, oh, this is a training course to get a cybersecurity job. I think the skills are more or less independent of things you're going to learn at uni.
Yeah, I'll be super quick on one take. And I'm trying to understand if I'm getting the question right and remembering the scenario, but say you are studying for your bachelor's, you're looking to see what electives or things would be more attractive or worthwhile for hiring jobs, employees. I think that's the correct capture. But I would suggest, and again, this is just a suggestion because I don't know what the hiring manager or that company is looking for. If you can do your research to see what they're more interested in, if you have a spot that you know that you're looking for. But if you don't, an idea, and may have some runway, is try to find either some of those electives or those other things in course of study that are varied and diverse and things that aren't natural to your own core curriculum. Because one way or another, once you get a job, even if you're trying to get into the job, there's nothing that is going to prepare you for that job other than the on-the-job training.
Yeah.
So the best thing you can do to kind of
Not to
arm
mention,
yourself,
there's like a million different tools. So,
Right, right.
if you're working with one tool, it may be totally different than another tool.
the best thing I could suggest is try to prepare yourself at least as a generalist in as many different things as you can. Just so you can not even walk the walk, but sort of at least talk the talk. So you know the vernacular, you know the lingo, and you know enough. People say this stupid thing, you know enough to be dangerous. You don't even have to be dangerous. You don't just, it doesn't matter. Just know a little bit about it. So if your core study is in, strict cybersecurity of web applications, maybe you could learn a little bit more about that cryptography and how the HTTPS certificate actually happens. Maybe you could do some of the AI monitoring if you wanted to see about the content moderation for stuff online. Maybe it's worth trying to understand about the payment currencies and where actually the cryptocurrency stuff even matters, if it still does. At that point, I don't know. Think about the other areas that will still be really tangential, but good whenever the time comes up that you'll be presented with something new. Your job and the hiring manager wants to see how flexible you are and how willing you can be to jump into something new. Sorry, I've been rambling.
This one is pretty quick. It's going to be just one for John. How did you get so good at running or how did you just get really good at Windows in general?
I am by no means really good at Windows, but I do like to just get into the terminal and explore and play with a lot of the binaries, like the living off the land stuff, and kind of see what it can do. I'd like getting into some of the PowerShell because it's just a scripting language, so you can read it. And if there's something you don't know what it is, you just go Google it. So maybe that's the best answer. And I know it's a stupid answer, it's a bad answer, but just being willing to go research and just being willing to go Google, whenever you just see something like, I don't know what that is. You can have a certain degree of like, I'm just going to press the I believe button and move on. But if you hit a wall, if you're stuck on something, if you can't make progress in what you think you're accomplishing in, maybe it's a good idea to take a step back and now go Google what the heck that other thing was that you don't know about, just for your own learning.
Perfectly spoken. I mean, I couldn't answer that better. I mean, that's a lot of people expect there's some kind of book, like a linear path to learning the stuff that we learn, but this is honestly how we learn, right? We just Google stuff. We just, play around, and then we Google, and then we learn something, and then that's how you grow. I think that's a perfect place to kind of wrap this one up. Hey, it's been fun, and looking forward to doing this again. And we should definitely turn it into a proper podcast and do some more like edits out of this. But hope everybody enjoyed this show. Again, Happy New Year, and I'm gonna hang around for a little bit in the Hangout section, and see you guys next time.
Cool. Thank you so much, everyone. It was really sweet to make this a little bit more of a live stream on my end, and I'm grateful for all of your hospitality in letting me do that. Super cool to hang out with you, and I like just chatting. Still has some hopeful value and some discussion. It's still really, really good. But Happy New Year. I see the chat.
Yeah, we have to integrate the live stream better next time. Maybe because I need to look at chat. I didn't even see the live stream chat. So yeah, we'll do that next time. But yeah, it's been a blast. And looking forward to the next one.
And thank you so much, seriously, for letting me hang out with you all. I know that was not super elite. I know that was not on the keyboard. I know that was not some show and tell demos, but it was still something that I thought would be worthwhile to get out there. And I'll see you in the next one.